Hey guys, Sean, LL4D. Magazine winder deleted. Now, this video did not turn out how I planned. I got interrupted by a work phone call and then had to jettison off to an emergency. So it's just going to be a kind of a mishmash of how I got to where I am now. I will reiterate numerous times through this video, if your magazine isn't broken, do not do this. Removing the winder allowed balls to pass this door. The door spring wasn't strong enough to withhold the balls without the winder. So I have unfortunately already removed the winder and I had to go down a different road. I've increased the spring size in here. Alternately, you could have shimmed it with mixed results. As it stands, there's 18 rounds in here. They're pretty stable. You drop this, they're probably gonna go flying. So don't delete your winder spring unless it tangles and breaks and then you're in this boat right here. But just to show it works. Well, it would have helped if I had air in my tank, but as I mentioned, it's been one of those days. So without further ado, here is rough cuts of why you don't delete your magazine winder.
Dum dum dum.
Don't need that. I'm gonna need those. Hey guys, Sean here, LL4D. Milsig M17 G3. Today, I'm going to winder delete my magazine. Not because I'm having any problems, but because it really isn't necessary if you're shooting hard projectiles. Well, I shouldn't say isn't necessary, so the reason for the winder is, in paintball, obviously you're having your magazine preloaded, and paintballs are frangible, meaning that they are breakable. So you don't want pressure, you don't want spring pressure on your projectiles, otherwise they get flat spots or they can break in the magazine. And same goes for chemical rounds. Chemical rounds are a little tougher, so you may still want to keep your winder. But also the winder may be important because I have seen, so this little trap door here, this like ball detent, whatever you want to call it, I call it a trap door, retains the projectiles from pushing out. If you remove your winder, so like it's locked, the follower is locked in position here, so there's no pressure pushing up on this door. But if your balls are too small or the mag spring is too strong, it can just push right past this door. So the winder may be necessary. I don't know yet until I actually remove it and test fire it. So here we go. Things you're gonna need: Allen keys, Phillips head. There's a single Phillips head screw right there. And some patience, of course. So we'll start with the Phillips head right in the top corner here. There are gonna be some little springs in here, I'm guessing, probably right in this area because your release is right here. And this door is also spring loaded. 2.5 millimeter Allen key. Correct. There are nuts on the back side here. They may or may not fall out. I don't know yet. Guessing all these screws are the same length. Nut just fell out, so they are gonna fall out. So all the screws are the same length, so no need to worry about getting them mixed up here. Now the dangerous part is cracking this thing open. Oh, and we're already getting ahead of ourselves here. This is a bottom door, I did not know that. So this door comes off here. Bottom's off. Oh yeah. This one was holding that one on, dummy. I'm hearing stuff fall. Okay, there's a pin on the back of that. There's a spring there and a spring there. There's your winder mechanism. It's got some pins, retaining pins here, or locating pins. I don't know if I'm gonna I don't know what I'm gonna do here, guys. So the big thing with these new magazines is that this follower is captive, meaning, so it has these little lips on the edge here. So when it's sliding in here, it hits the top and it can't come out. The big thing with the old magazines is that's kind of how you actually did service on them, is you wound it up and let it fly out of there and you could access your follower and your spring and stuff like that. So this does not do that because of these lips, which is great because then it doesn't go into your barrel by accident. Okay, let me think about this for a second. Well, we're just gonna cut it. For now, we are going winderless, so I'm not even gonna reinstall the winder. I'm just gonna cut the knot off the top here. That way, if I choose to reuse this, I can just retie that knot. Now, you just have to be careful because everything's gonna come flying off of there. Long end of this pivot is up into the door. Short is into this release here. Now it should go together. It's that simple, right? And then your follower is going on the other side. Now you could just drop it in there and let it fall to the end, and then, well, then you know it's where it's supposed to be. Got that together. Kind of just draw your spring up like that so you can get this hatch back on here. Is that the right way? It is. Put your screws back in. All right, there you go. Magazine, winder, delete. Geez, I hope that's on the right way. Let me double check my other magazine. Usually before I ever attempt to take something apart or destroy it, I buy a second one to confirm that it's correct. So this came in my Milsig shipment. I purchased that just for this occasion. And it is together, so let's load it up and see if it will hold balls. Well, it's all back together, and it'll hold about 12 of these slippery riot balls before this door lets go winderless. So I would not recommend going winderless. I'm going to try and install a heavier spring in this door to see if I can't solve that issue, but it's pretty sensitive as it is. I would leave your magazine with the winder intact. All right, some success. What I did is that spring for this door right here, I shimmed with I believe it was 832 machine screw nut. So I shimmed that spring up. There are 15 riot balls in this magazine now. You can see it's starting to come out. It's not perfect, but I got one more thing to try. I'm gonna double up the spring in here. I actually have this size spring on hand. So I'm gonna try that next, and we'll see if that doesn't work better. But so far, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Would I recommend deleting your magazine at this point? No, don't do it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. All right, well, doubling the spring was too janky. So I actually found a heavier spring for this door here. This is 18 rounds in here right now. Will it fire though? I have one spring lighter. This current spring is a little bit stiff. but it may break in. So let's see if it'll fire first. If you look inside here, there's that little step right down here. That's what releases your magazine. So it contacts this piece right here on the end. And it's hard to see in the light there, right there. So if it's too stiff, it may not release the balls. And we don't want that. But I also don't want my balls to just come tumbling out. You can see the spring is holding. I can see the ball. Ball in the hole, ball in the hole. Air it up. Works perfect, but I'm going to try the lighter spring next. Let you guys see what I'm doing this time. Let me just get all these balls out of here. I only put a couple of these screws back in just because, well, yeah, I'm taking it apart often until I find the solution. Follower comes out. This is the spring I'm running in here right now. It is a 0.7 millimeter by 15 millimeter length. And it's gonna go boing because it's in there tight. So this is a factory spring for this little latch here. It goes in like that, and then you gotta tuck that spring in without letting it fly across the room. There you go. That is the heavy spring that I put on there. So this spring is this one here. It worked, but I didn't like how tight it is in here, so takes a little effort to push your door in, and I'm not sure that that's how I want it to be. Eventually that'll cause wear, trying to push this, don't push your balls in all the time. So we're gonna go one spring lighter than this one. This guy, 0.6 by 15 by 6 millimeter OD. For reference, this is the factory spring. This one right here. This is the spring I'm installing. 0.6 by 15 millimeters by 6 millimeter OD. You can see how the factory spring fits on here. It kind of pushes on this stud pretty easily. This one. Not as easy, but it goes on. Just a tiny bit extra effort. In like that. Put the pin in. Like that. That's a short pin. The long end of this pivot goes up into this, right where my thumb is, that slot, and over this pin. Like that. And then you just gotta put your clamshell back on. Like that, and it went on nice and easy. Put a screw in, put a nut on the back, tighten it down. Follower goes in, and I put it in first now. Falls out to the top. I'm not using this little stud that was on the end. It's just more of a pain in the ass to get back in there. So I'm putting that flattened kind of end spring in this side, So up where your winder would have been. Take the other end, shove it up against your follower. Hold it in place like that. Grab your little hatch here. Put a nut on. Obviously you'd put all your screws back in, but this is just a trial. Now let's try that door again. I do like it, it's much easier, but will it hold 18 rounds? 1, 14. Now, did you see how I was pushing hard on that? Right around here, without that cable attached, there's a little bit of alignment issue with the follower, but it's staying in place. I lost track. What was that, 14? 13, I think it was. So we're at 13. Let me grab a couple more. I don't even know how many was in there. We'll just keep jamming them until I can't take anymore. I'm gonna say that's 18 right there. So this spring, the lighter spring is holding. Maybe not as well. But these balls are small and slippery. I think if you loaded this with like AR Tactical Jewels or Grimberg Jewels or Epic Defense rounds, Gladiator rounds, this would probably stick just fine. So I think I'm gonna leave that spring. I'll leave that spring for the time being. I will link the 2 springs I used for that in the video description down below. Choose either or. For now, I'm going with the just slightly lighter one. But remember, don't delete your magazine. Unless it breaks, I guess.